Say something. Oh, okay, there he is.
Okay.
We are
You guys, I've been talking for like 5 minutes only to look at my laptop and see there was like an error. So yeah. To rewind, technology does not want us to be great. I'm not going over all that again, so I'm sorry y'all missed
now.
it. I'm so over this day. Anyway, we're just gonna bring on our guests. So if you follow us on Twitter, you know that we've got Law Nation Sports and Okoye Media waiting to join us. And there's been lots going on Cowboys Twitter to talk about. So I'm just gonna bring them on. And yeah, we'll just go from there. It's gonna be a fun conversation. Shout out to everybody in the chat.
Yes, thank you.
Wait, hold on. Wait a minute. We have entered the multiverse because I'm hearing you about 5,000.
You
Is there
hear?
like a really bad echo?
Yeah.
Now
Uh,
right? I'm good, right?
I
I
don't
hear,
hear an echo from you, and I don't
Okay.
hear an echo
Is
from
it
me.
I
is it
don't
I
hear
hold up
I
my
don't
anything.
hear
end?
echo from nobody. You might have the link on though, Law. You just sent me the link, so that you might have
Okay.
clicked on that link on Twitter. So check your Twitter.
All right.
You gotta go in.
Ooh, that Murphy
See,
Law, man, it was messing me up. I said, man, I'm hearing about like 5 of you. But hey, this
I'm
was
like, don't tell
great.
me after all that we're still having problems. I
it's
was
going
Oh,
tip to the top.
I was about to just throw everything.
Lord, man, what's up, man? Okoye, shout out to you,
How you,
fam.
man?
Appreciate you, man. Shout
Chilling.
out to you, man. What's going on with you over there? S
I'm
Pain.
I'm good, man. I've been patiently waiting and chilling. I'm liking this ring light. My wife got this little ring light set up. I'm like, oh,
Right.
I like this light right here. I'm about to steal this joint.
Okay.
I should get one of those because I feel like I don't know where
Yeah,
to be,
I was
so I
thinking
don't
like
be
for a second, I
blending
was
with
like,
the
damn, this is like
wall.
a dungeon. Yeah, I'm in the white wall. I was like, let me go shave my face and put this light on and shit.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, so if you've been waiting in the chat, basically I couldn't find the cord to hook up my mic with you, which usually my laptop mic sounds terrible. Finally got in here. They said I sound fine, but there was a terrible delay.
I
Yeah,
hear
y'all
it.
don't care. Anyway, we're here to talk about Cowboys and other sports. So I'm curious. I know what's been most interesting to me so far this week, like going from like let's say a week ago, going from like last Wednesday to today. I know it's been the most interesting headlines to me. Um, One person says they hear an echo, so I'm gonna say if you're in the chat and you hear an echo, let me know so I can try to fix it.
Yeah,
Um, but if
it
you
should
don't
be
hear an
all clear
echo, let me
now.
know.
It should be all clear now.
Yeah, I
It
don't
was
hear
on
Okay.
nothing.
my end. It was my bad. It was my
Um,
I had it looped around.
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm curious from y'all's end, like what do y'all think has been the most like interesting topics to pop up, whether it's on Cowboys Twitter or anywhere else?
You want to take that first, Law?
Well, according to what's this guy name? Rand was it Cobb? What's his first name? Randall Cobb.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he literally said that Dak Prescott is elite today, blowing up the
I
internet.
saw
It's
that.
crazy, huh? So somehow he's elite, because before Randall Cobb got here, he was washed. And he got to the Cowboys. Hey, Randall Cobb resurrected his career. And then he went to the Houston. He got washed again.
Right.
So what is it? Okoye, talk to me, man. Talk to me, man. What's going on,
I
man?
mean, I think the conversation about Dak is like we've been playing that in circles all year, and it's going to continue until he goes deep in the playoffs. Because the way teams are starting to like size things up, they think that it's based off your wins, not your performance and your level of growth. We've already said Dak's grown as far as his technique, the things he's able to do on the field, but when you look at it from a wins perspective, they're looking at Hurts now as if he's the best quarterback in the NFC. And people who want to argue because he made it to a Super Bowl that makes you the best. I guess Colin Kaepernick is a better quarterback too. Flacco is as well, right? If you're basing it off of that, so
Yeah.
that's the movable logic that everybody has. So it's not a surprise to me, no matter who it is. Like when if you come out and you say Dak is elite, I think it goes without saying. Like you can't name 10 quarterback that you like more than Dak. You can name 5 maybe if you wanted to, but
Right.
they'll ignore any report that says that he's top 5, top 10, any of that. But if D Hop says I don't got Dak in my top 5,
Yeah.
Twitter will erupt over it. So for
Yeah.
me, I'm just not as knee jerky when it comes to Dak anymore because I expect it now. And that's when I was doing that piece, I was looking for contrast in the narrative, and there isn't any. Like Dak is trash according to anybody who asks outside the Cowboys forum. And unless you ask certain honest opposition, I think we get it more from some of our fans, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
because
I feel like you could
that Dak's not trash. But you talk to some Cowboys fans, they'll say we need to draft a quarterback. Somebody was trying to draft what's the dude? Hendon Hooker?
Caleb Williams.
Who?
What's the dude from Tennessee? What's his name?
Hendon Hooker.
From Tennessee?
They were like, yeah, let's draft
goodness.
Hendon Hooker and get rid of Dak. I'm like, come on, man. Somebody said that to me. I'm like, it's crazy. But yeah,
I feel like you could like redo that piece like quarterly if you wanted to. Like just every quarter a new like Dak Prescott is the most hated quarterback in the NFL. But yeah, no, I saw where Cobb said that Dak was elite, and that was really surprising because I know for a while there was this narrative that like Dak is good but not elite, and I'm like, I can deal with that. Okay. I also saw this morning that someone was comparing Jalen Hurts to Tom Brady, and I think between all those conversations about quarterbacks, I think what it tells me is that there's just a lot of fans out here thinking with their emotions.
yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily lead to the most logical conclusions. Like, I get it. The sports fandom, the ways that we feel about the athletes that we care about, it's like those are the same brain chemicals that are activated when we have a new crush or we enter a relationship. You know what I'm saying? So there are some people in this world, not everybody. There are some people who, they might start to feel a certain way about a quarterback, and it just, they lose all sense of logic the same way they might if they had a new crush. But I think one of the biggest differences is like before you post something, like maybe take some time and check in with reality, like you would hopefully in a relationship.
You gotta unpack that when you say that, right?
But to me, I'll tell you mine. The most interesting thing outside of what y'all have mentioned, on the opposite end of the spectrum from Dak being considered elite, was a conversation over the weekend of, interceptions are just in his DNA, and there's no way that he's going to perform better.
That was Brian
and I was.
Did Brian Broaddus really say that?
Oh yeah,
that was Broaddus.
I thought it was like somebody was playing with me because I never take Twitter serious if I'm skimming. But I thought somebody was playing when he said that. There's no way.
No, he's actually said that more than once. That wasn't my first time hearing him say that. But I guess since he like went and posted it on Twitter, a lot more people saw it because you can retweet things that you say on Twitter. Whereas
coming from him because he actually is supposed to be like a left brain, analytical, scout-minded type of guy, and I respect a lot.
Supposed to be
right.
So to say that is just. You don't even have it's not an argument because you don't have to even argue it. You can just go look. If it was in his DNA, you would see it in his record, but it's not. So
big facts over there.
That don't make sense.
It
don't make sense.
Martin Talk Cowboys pointed out that apparently Brian Broaddus has been wanting to get rid of Dak since minicamp Dak's rookie year. Damn. So that's one thing.
Damn. God.
That's what I said. I was like, okay, so he just didn't get no chances. All right.
A hug or something. You don't like it personally. That's personal.
Right. It must be. And then the other thing is like, obviously it's not in his DNA because this past season was his first year having an issue like that to that magnitude. Right. So I guess my thing among Cowboys, not just when it comes to Dak, but when it comes to the offense in general, is just like, where is this narrative coming from that the team just can't do better, that we won't see anything better than we've seen the last 2 seasons? But before we address that question, I'm gonna let S-Pain go with what she's found to be the most interesting.
No, I'm just gonna Akoya said it too, and it's been like every time that Dak is this, Dak is that. Like, okay, well then name me. I say name me 10 better than Dak. And nobody can. I've had this conversation multiple times. I had it at work a few weeks ago, and my coworker had to pull up a list of NFL quarterbacks to look at names, and you couldn't get past 5. I mean,
well, there we go.
It's just haters. It's just haters everywhere. It's just haters everywhere.
They want that to be the case, so they try. It's like confirmation bias. They're trying to make it so. You know what I mean?
And it's easier to lead off with that because of the resume of the Cowboys. in the last 15 years when we think of like Jason Garrett being here for 13 years. And then a little bit before that, we had the Dave Campo of the world, so 5-11, 5-11, 5-11. So now that's permeated into the minds of the people, right? So whatever can go wrong will go wrong. And I believe that even though he's been here for 7 years or now going into his 8th season, people still will hold that same thought track and say that, hey, man, these are the Dallas Cowboys, unfortunately. And anything that we do good at, they kind of whisper that and they yell out and shout out the absolutely the worst things of us. Think of this, yards allowed. Do we know who gave up the most yards allowed last season? No one.
We don't.
But when Trayvon Diggs had 11 interceptions, they'll say, hey, man, he's giving up a fortune, though, for those INTs. Right. So now it's literally INTs with Dak Prescott, who pretty much normally don't throw INTs, but now he's a turnover machine. It's in his DNA. So where in the hell was that in his DNA for the first 6 years? Come on, Brian Brothers. Come on, man. What's wrong?
We were talking about this a couple of days ago, too, when we reported that it's really easy to like praise somebody when they do good for like 5 minutes, but that second that they do something you don't like or you don't agree with is hell, bro, lose. Like it's over for that person. You pretty much cancel them, and it's like, so all these other things that they've been doing that doesn't count, right? That's just what
it's a good thing though. I think it's a good thing at this point because when you mention Campo, you mentioned Jason Garrett, even mentioned Kellen Moore. You didn't mention him, but if you throw Kellen Moore in that mix. Those are all coming from I think, a different mindset in this regime where Jerry wanted to coach from the box. So he was grabbing guys that he can kind of maneuver from the box. The last 3 seasons with Mike McCarthy, I think you're seeing that as a difference. But the good thing is we're still wearing the stigma from the game manager, those type of puppeteer or the puppet coaches. You know what I'm saying? We're still wearing that stigma. So Mike McCarthy gets to kind of fly under the radar, and I think that's the only good thing and the good spin that you could put on it. The same thing with Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's steadily getting better, but if you were asking fans, he's declining or regressing and so on. That in the minds of opponents or anybody that's like watching is like you can kind of sucker punch people or catch them slipping due to the fact. I think Tom Brady and those guys in Tampa Bay kind of got a whiff of that last year. Because people don't expect the Cowboys to be as good as they've been showing you they actually are. Like, you can't name another team in the NFC that is as dangerous as we are top down. And I really do believe that. Like, if you say the Eagles because of what they just did, great. They have a great defense, good defense. I still think our defense is better. Offensively, I think they got a lot of questions to answer. They're still growing. Nothing's wrong with Hurts, but Hurts is still a young, developing quarterback. And to act like he's not because they went to a Super Bowl, keep doing it.
Keep doing it. Well, let me ask you this, though. All three
hold on. Before you ask that question.
Go ahead. There's
like a super chat in here. I'm going to just tell everybody watching, we don't have an audience that does that. So if I know y'all expect certain things for that, I have no idea. So
they just want you to read whatever they say, that's all.
I got you.
Right, but I'm not good at interrupting people and being like, hey, somebody just paid money for their comment to be read.
So we're gonna build this plane while it's in the air. Come on with it.
I'm just telling everybody. But
I'm not used to y'all throwing no money up here, so don't expect
Man, y'all better throw some money around this thing. Come on.
Yes, please do. But Law, since these are your people throwing money, I'm gonna depend on you to kind of help me out a little bit so we can pause and be like, somebody threw some money up here. Anyway, what was your question, Law?
Oh, I was gonna say for all three of you all, I asked my guy Big Game James this last season, right before everything started. Did Dak Prescott peak? I'm gonna start with you, Lethal.
Did Dak Prescott peak?
Yeah. Have you seen the best of Dak Prescott? Is this his ceiling? Collectively.
I think is it fair that there's a complicated answer to that question?
That's why I laid it out there.
Okay.
Ooh.
The reason why I think it's a complicated answer is because I think we've seen a version of Dak Prescott that was more dynamic and more exciting than what we're seeing now, right? Mm-hmm. But I do think we are going to see improved performance but I think there's a difference between performance and production. I also think there's a difference between performance and excitement, right? And so when I hear him talk about knowing the purpose behind the plays, to me, that points to an offense that's going to be on the same page that'll be even easier for him to lead. So in
Right.
terms of his peak, I think we're going to see him be an even better leader. I think we're going to see him be a more efficient passer because he's going to be on the same page as other people on his offense. And then, like with West Coast offense, there's that tendency for running backs to be used for like really short passes, right? And so
Right.
those will count for his stats too. And so I think all of that is going to be go smoother and be more efficient. So in that sense, I think we are going to see a different version. It's almost like a I'm trying to make a good comparison. Um, but everything that I can think of that evolves, like we're used to it getting better as it evolves.
Mm.
I'm gonna think of a good analogy, and I'm gonna come back to this. But I think we're going to see like almost like if there was like a multiverse, right? And we saw
Mm,
a great version of running Dak Prescott. Like he
yeah.
was he was carrying the ball and he was passing and he was doing all this stuff, right?
Right.
And if you could like go to another timeline where Dak
Uh-huh.
came out as like more of a passing quarterback, a leader quarterback, somebody who
Right.
just like could read defenses like a pro and just chop them to pieces and then bring that person and then make that his peak, I think we're going to see a different peak in that type of quarterback from Dak
Yeah.
Prescott.
I
So
like.
I do think he has peaked. I think we're going to see another.
Okay. Okay. What about you, S. Payne?
um, I don't think he's peaked yet.
Yeah.
But mostly because of his injuries lately. I think that has stopped him from improving as much as he could per season. But coming back from everything that he's come back from every season, I think we're gonna see more from Dak than we have. I want to see him run more, and we've seen that this past season. And I think we're gonna see a better Dak this season. Hopefully, he stays healthy.
No, no doubt. So when she was talking about this earlier, quantum Dak, you know what I'm saying? So we talk about multiverse, quantum Dak. What
Yeah.
about you, Okoye? Break it down, man.
I mean, you guys hit some interesting points, and I agree to a degree, right? And you actually, Lethal, you actually hit it on the head, I think, in some cases, because if you're talking about peak from a sense of productivity, like, is he going to hit 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns? I really don't care
Yeah.
if that's what you're asking. Has he shown me the ability to do that if we needed him to? Yes. But if you look at, I always use this comparison in Peyton Manning, but when you look at Peyton Manning in his better year, could Peyton Manning put up 50 touchdowns? Yes.
Yeah.
But the best Peyton Manning was the efficient Peyton Manning that just knew
Yes.
what plays to call and, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, so to speak. You know what I mean?
True.
And I think Dak had to go through that progression to prove either to himself, even to
Right.
some of the people in the box, that he could do all those things. And now scaling it back is, I think, the best strategy for winning, with balance and running and like you said, West Coast offense, short passes and so on. But if you take a guy who's thrown in there without preparation as a rookie, no consistent quarterback coach, no consistent
Yes.
offensive coordinator, and you
Right.
throw an offensive coordinator that is not experienced and doesn't really have situational play calling, coupled with a coaching regime initially that really didn't have any say so over anything before with Jason Garrett. So that was vanilla Dak just doing what he had to do, right? And then when with Kellen Moore, you had Dak trying to do the most to not only get a contract, but also thinking that my productivity, because it's been said that his lack thereof was the reason we were losing. So now he's like, my productivity is the reason we have to, reason we're going to win. And now I think he's proven that isn't the case as well. Just like you see a lot of other quarterbacks have done. They light
Right.
up the scoreboard, but they still don't win in those particular seasons. So I think less is more with Dak. So has he peaked from a productivity standpoint? He can get better, but
Right.
stat wise, I don't think we need to see 55 touchdowns and 5,000 yards from Dak for us to think that he's good. I think the best Dak is the Dak that turns around and just calls the right play, calls the right audible, and makes the right play in the right situation. I think him knowing what he's capable of allows him to scale it back and do that without ego. You know what I mean? So I think we'll see a better team because of the way Dak is now versus the way he was, no matter how good you
Can
think
I
he was.
can I touch on what you said about the quarterback coach? Or Law, were you going to answer this question first?
No. He good because everything he said was right along the way. Dak organically was going to have 2019 season, right? And organically 2020 was going to be itself before the injury. And then 2021, I mean, Dak was going to do that regardless of who the coordinator was. We were seeing those things. So it was just that when it was time to make those necessary adjustments, why in the hell we go 4 curls? So
there you go. And that's something that you can touch on. When you look at the comparisons with guys that he's up against, they either have consistency or they have a system that's built in with things that are that easy for him. Even when Romo was here, when Romo was off in the beginning, they'll start throwing hitch passes to Dez to bring the corners down so he can get behind them. So they would give him a lot of easy completions early on. And I think Kellen Moore never really did that for Dak. Although Linehan did. Kellen and Linehan were like opposites. Linehan gave him easier things that were kind of like a lot more screen passes, a lot of short passes, slants, things like that. Whereas he still had the 4 hooks though. Whereas Kellen Moore, more, just 4 goals, a lot of 4 goals, a lot of option routes. And Dak had to learn how to like maneuver safeties and do things out there himself to get guys open. There wasn't a lot of engineered plays to get guys open.
Big facts, man.
So regarding the quarterback coaches though, and I can't remember who made this point, but so if you're watching or you hear this, I apologize. But they made the point that I think they mentioned Kitna. I think it was Kitna who they were talking about. That when Kitna was around, Kitna was actually the one who encouraged and taught Dak to be more aggressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now Dak's aggressiveness is one of the things that people sometimes count as a strike against him. They say that's the reason for the turnovers. But the point that this person was making was that Kitna ended up leaving before teaching him how to use that aggressiveness. So for me, what it made me think about was like in our sport, roller derby. Sometimes you have people like they'll learn how to hit, and when they first get good at hitting, they want to go out and they want to hit everybody, right? But what that sometimes leads to is a lot of penalties because sometimes they'll chase the jammer and end up out of play, and then they go to the penalty box, or they get too aggressive and hit somebody with the elbow, and they go to the penalty box, or they hit somebody so hard that they go out of bounds and they come back in the wrong spot and they get a track cut and they go to the penalty box, right? And so with Dak, it kind of made me think about how that might apply to him and how him being aggressive, but not really having an opportunity to be taught like how to fine tune that might have led to some of the issues that we have seen and how he's kind of had to learn that on his own. Because like who else was going to teach him that? Like, I wouldn't say that Kellen Moore it would be the person to teach somebody like how to properly use aggressiveness. You know what I'm saying? And so when it comes to Dak and his evolution, he went from being an immature quarterback with a really good quarterback coach to now he's a mature quarterback, but he has yet to be a mature quarterback with coaches who are actually going to create a system around him and actually, create something that plays to his strengths. And so when people say like, oh, we're not going to see anything different, to me, that is the main reason I think that we are going to see something different, because it's like we've seen Dak grow, but now we're seeing coaches who are appropriate for his level of growth. We have not seen that yet, And then it's like going back to your point about Kellen Moore and the things that he did that, a lot of people, I'm not going to say Kellen Moore didn't make sense, but a lot of the criticism was that the things that he did didn't make sense. Okay. And so it makes me think about the difference between creativity and innovation, right? Creativity is just imagination. What can you come up with? What can you think up? Just put it out there. Like it's, everybody's so creative, right?
Right. That was very creative. Right, really.
and that's how you feel. Like looking at some of Kellen Moore's plays, it's like doesn't that look like something you would never think to?
Second and 2, empty. It's creative, man. 4 wides, man. 4 wides, 4 curls. Second and 2, empty. Come on, man. That's very creative. Yeah.
You're watching this place like, doesn't that look like something you would never think to do? But we're doing it here.
Reverse sweep inside your own 20.
But yeah, so Kellen was creative, but then that's not the same thing as innovation. Innovation is whenever you think about what can I actually implement in order to achieve a goal that has not been achieved within a certain setting. And I think that's what the Cowboys need. They need innovation right now. And I think an experienced coach like Mike McCarthy calling the plays and having Schottenheimer on his side, that's going to lead to actual innovation in terms of how do we use that skill set? How do we use somebody like CeeDee Lamb? How do we, make this, synergetic relationship between CeeDee Lamb and Cooks and a newly healed Michael Gallup? How
Right.
do we make that all work? How do we bring this new running back in and make him work with Pollard? Like, I think we're going to see some great things from our offense. And what we have to remember is that we don't need an overhaul in order to improve. Like, the difference between our seeding, like us having the Eagles seed and vice versa, if you think about it, most of our games, and I said this, was that Monday? But most of our games, they were lost. The ones that were lost within the past 2 seasons, most of them were lost within a possession or less, with exception of a couple.
Yeah.
And those possessions, the trajectory of those possessions could have been changed with a handful of plays. So we're literally talking about a handful of plays per season that can make a difference in our season, that can make a difference in our seeding, that can make a difference in the path that we take during the playoffs. So when they say like, yeah, no, our offense isn't broken, we just need to fix a few things. I'm like, yeah, that's legit. Because if you go look at the play-by-play and look where things went wrong, you're looking at a handful of plays here. So
Yeah.
like we really are in a good position. And I think those handful of differences are really going to get us to where we need to go.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Agreed.
I want to
I
go
just
ahead,
wanted to say that sometimes people forget, like, yeah, we talk about QBs being the leader of the team and all that, but is the leader of a team. If we don't get the collective, the leader can be successful if everybody else is not helping and being successful.
True.
So if you don't have a good alignment and your running backs and your receivers and everybody on the same page and working together, you can do whatever. Like,
Yeah.
that is not gonna work.
100%. We got another super chat from Mr. Frederick Jameson. Says we need to hold these people accountable after Dak takes us to the Super Bowl this year.
Yes, free.
Yeah.
I'm having earbud
man. Let's go
issues.
with it. Let's go with it. You know, they do. And on top of that, it's hard, man. There's no growth in comfort. Let me say this again. There's no growth in
Not at
comfort.
all.
So when you had the peer-to-peer coaching, whereas you had the young Kellen Moore who was learning on the job, and you had Dak Prescott, there were no growth. So when my guy John Kitna came over here, he held him accountable to elevate him. So hopefully going into this year with Shotty, you know, he's going to get back to run concept. And the reason why I said that, hey, did Dak Prescott peak? Well, the problem is with this is that we've seen quarterback with less stature win Super Bowls. So we know for sure 37 touchdowns to 10 INTs, that's very winnable, you know, and that's what he was able to generate while healthy, while playing a full season. And of course, last year, what nobody contextualizes, these small things. We got rid of Amari Cooper. We got rid of Cedric Wilson. That's 14 touchdowns, 1,400 yards. That's passer rating when tempted, 122. And we replaced them with, say it with me, y'all in the chat, James Washington, as well as Noah Brown. So those boys couldn't fill in those shoes. And of course, there's this thing called law of diminishing rates of return, where we didn't get the same product because we didn't have the same skill sets out there. Plus, we had a guy with a broken thumb, you know, so you can't get those type of 37 and 10. But I get it. It's in his DNA.
I'm gonna address one of the
excuses to me.
Those
all excuses, man. You know what it is. Put some duct tape on that.
One of the things that came up in the chat. Somebody in the chat said, "Is it a make or break year for Dak Prescott?" And let me tell you why I'm not going to have the panel answer that question. If you want us to ask that question, then in the chat you are going to have to present us with a viable trade option or some scenario that actually makes sense. Like, because replace it, like if it's a make or break year for Dak Prescott, you're suggesting that we're going to replace him next year. With who? Make that make sense, and then we might address it. but I cannot think of any draft scenario, any trade scenario where we're actually going to get back something equal or better. So no, we're not answering that.
Here's the issue with that, right? Just to address that real quick. People who want to get rid of him, you have to say that you're either going to go out and get Aaron Rodgers or somebody who's already ready made,
Right.
or you're willing to watch another quarterback go through growing pains for another 6-7 years before you decide what they really are or find out what they are, right? It's like if I'm going to New York and I get 70 and I'm in New Jersey, I'm not turning around and going to Delaware and starting over. I'm going to just figure out how to get there from where I am. And that's how I look at Dak. It's like, whether you like him or not, do you want to start the progression path over again? Like you said, if you go and get someone else, you're going to have to give them time to figure out if they're the guy too, right?
Right.
So how much time is that? So would you rather give a new guy 4 years and figure out he's not the guy, or would you rather give Dak 4 to 5 years and let him do what he's supposed to do? That's I would rather deal with that.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
I do have a question.
Especially when, like I said, we're talking about, once again, a handful of plays. We're not talking about 2 losing seasons in a row. We're talking about 2 winning seasons in a row where we just didn't make it that far in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? I feel like 1 possession difference in that last playoff game this past year, and we end up going to the NFC Championship game. I feel like all these conversations would be completely different.
Right.
So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Okay.
No doubt.
I have a question for y'all.
Go ahead.
Okay. Do you think some of the injuries to the offensive line have been just as impactful to some of Dak's so-called ups and downs, and not necessarily Dak just being inconsistent?
Well, let me just say this: 4 out of the 5 guys were injured last year, and the only person who stayed solid was Zach Martin. So I would tell you guys that your quarterback play is contingent upon your front 5. If you think I'm lying, if you think I don't know what I'm talking about, people that's in the chat, go back and watch the Super Bowl when Pat Mahomes was running for his life versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, could only muster up 9 points. It was a blowout because he couldn't move the ball. His front 5 caved in on him. But what people tend to do is that they would look at it and say, yeah, that's Pat Mahomes. He'll be back there. But if it was Dak Prescott, oh, man, this dude is trash. He's wild. You know what I'm saying? It is hard to do what we did last year. 4 out of the 5 guys moved around. And Cowboys, that's a quick insight. Go ahead and pay Terrence Steele. Stop playing around with your food.
Right.
But, I mean, better yet, look at what we did to Tom Brady. Like, if you look at that game and why he looked so bad, it was because we had people who were basically able to, like, run right up the middle and get to him, and that always made him nervous. That makes most quarterbacks nervous, right? So it's like, if you want to see the impact of an offensive line on a quarterback's play, you don't have to stop at looking at Dak. You can look at any quarterback whenever they have issues on their O-line, or their O-line is playing musical chairs, or somebody who's hurt is replaced by someone who's not as experienced. You can see it, you know? And when this offseason came around, there were a few people who did analyses on Dak's interceptions. And they looked at things like, okay, what actually causes, what was going on before and after this play, yada, yada, yada. So not even just coming from me, from people with way more experience than I do. They said that Dak Prescott looked uncomfortable. He looked unsure. He looked like he wasn't confident that he had time, and that he felt like he had to look over his own shoulder. That's what they said. These are people who played quarterback before, who had coached before, so on and so forth. And so why would he look that way? Clearly, there would, like, if he was confident in his O-line, there would be no reason for him to feel uncomfortable. That discomfort and that inconsistency comes from him not having confidence in the people who are supposed to be protecting him. That actually leads me to another question that's related to something else I heard earlier. When I have off days like this, I basically spend all day watching Cowboys content. So I did watch Still's show this morning. Shout out to Skywalker Still. And he was talking about the O-line. And it's not often that I disagree with Steele. And I'm not going to say that he's wrong, because I don't think he was. I think this is just clearly, it's a matter of perspective, right? But he said that people were making a big deal out of the left guard spot. There being question marks there. And so here's why I think there are. I think there are 2 things that have happened that have led Cowboys fans to really make a big deal about that left guard spot being left open. One, we saw a game where it was a different position, but where Jason Peters had to come in from Josh Ball for Josh Ball, right? And we saw the difference that made. And so I think people seeing that, that was like for a lot of people, their first time really seeing in real time the difference that one person on the offensive line can make. And so I think for some people, they think back to that moment and they're just like, yeah, it is very important that we have the best person possible at each and every position on that line. And then I think the other thing that happened is in the offseason when people were kind of talking about what went wrong and, trying to comfort each other, so to speak. And they did get, hear some of those takes that said, well, Dak looked uncomfortable and it seemed like the pocket was collapsing every now and then, or whatever was happening with the O-line. I think some people took that to heart. And so I think whenever we start talking about that left guard position, or we start talking about Terrence Steele not like being somewhere besides right tackle, right? I think people aren't looking at it as just an O-line issue or just as one position. They're thinking about the implications for the passing game, for the run game. And I think that's what's making people look at it as such a big deal. It's not just that all of a sudden Cowboys fans care about the O-line. I think people are just like, okay, well, if this position isn't taken care of, are we still going to see issues despite all the moves that we've made in the offseason? Are we still going to see issues in the pass game and in the run game?
I think, I won't give it the same gravity everybody else does, because to me, I think you learn more in adversity than you do when it's all sunny. This is the NFL. Like, we're going to have injuries this year, and who knows who it's going to be. Some in training camp, some during the season, and they're all going to be impactful, I'm sure, right? But when you say you have a 12-5 season with the shuffling around that we had with that offensive line, starting with Tyron Smith going down before even one snap, if you'd have said that Tyler Smith was going to do what he did, moving around in two different positions as a rookie, I would have called you a liar, and I would have said that was wishful thinking. You know what I'm saying? But to bring in a guy, and I think that players mirror their coaches. Nothing against Philbin. I think Philbin was old and wise, right? But I think Mike Scolari is evil, old and wise. You know what I'm saying? And I think you help an offensive line out, especially inexperienced guys who are asked to pass block a little bit more than we should have. I think you help an offensive line out when you let them fire off the ball and dictate the pace of the game. And that's how you protect guys who can't necessarily pass block as good, because he's been beating on, hopefully, the opposition, early downs and throughout the game by dictating that pace. So I feel like what Dak was able to do, and I did see him uncomfortable only, I think, one game. I think that's when Ball was playing right tackle. Other than that, I think Dak was pretty comfortable enough to get us to 12-5. So I think I was okay with what we were able to do, despite the fact that we had the injuries all over the offensive line. And when you talk about left guard, with the way we approach the offseason, and I do trust Will McClay, I trust the front office at this point with what we've been doing in the last couple of years. The way we approach the offseason, everyone had glaring questions about cornerback 2, right?
Right.
Since Anthony Brown went down last year, we've been having
questions. Musical chair.
Went out and addressed that. Everybody had questions about receiver. We addressed that. Everybody had questions about defensive tackle. We re-signed Hankins before the draft, and then we went out and got Mozzie. So everything that's been a question mark up and down the team has been addressed, other than offensive guard. So some people say that they forgot about it. I doubt they forgot. I think they have confidence in something that they've seen, and I can trust that until I see otherwise. I think that the way we've been developing players, and if you look at our top 5 offensive linemen right now, Tyron Smith included, it's going to be a shuffling around process in training camp, but I like our starting 5 guys right now. And then I like Awesome as well coming in, a young rookie. And we don't know, you have to give guys time to progress. Like, everybody has a great first time out. Ball might progress at a different position. Waletzko might get better. You never know what these guys, Forniak, you don't know what these guys are going to do. And I think we went and got Udoka. I forgot.
Chuma Udoka. And
so
just to echo off of what you said. Yeah, just to echo off of what you said with that left guard, I believe that that's their philosophy right now. They need to see what they got first before they start lifting up the other stones and seeing what need to be done there. I think that what they're looking for out of Solari's system is athletic guards, and you get your athletic guards from tackles. So
Right.
Awesome, he's going to be kicked inside. Farniak, he's going to be playing at left guard. He's going to get reps at that spot. We've seen already Joshua Ball. My good Lord, he was playing guard too. So they're trying to figure it out now. You know, when OTAs is over with, training camp, I encourage you guys, don't pay too much attention to training camp until the pads come on, right? And that's when they get real nasty with it. And then they will really know who's really a real one or a fake one, because that's when it'll be like, hey, this dude ain't no good. They'll look into the veteran pool and they'll bring in a veteran. But for right now,
you got dudes who beat the bag up, but when it's time to spar, it's like nah,
he ain't ready
Okay.
yet.
Everybody got friends that get
Let's go.
Somebody said Martin talked Cowboys on crack, and I can't tell if they're saying Martin says something and it sounds like they're on crack, or if they're agreeing that somebody else sounds like they're on crack. Just coming in too fast. So Martin talk Cowboys. If you have something to say, you might want to just DM me. Once again, I do appreciate everybody in the chat. This is like learning on the job. I ain't never had to scroll this fast. Y'all are awesome.
Yeah, I had to learn. I like, man, looking at the chat, I spend half of my lives, I'll be arguing with the guys out there and all that, man.
Yeah.
Right. And I have a bad habit of ignoring stuff that I disagree with. I feel like S-Pain should be in charge of the chat, because S-Pain would be the one to be like, what the fuck did you just say? Hold on, I'm about to put this up here, put you on blast. And I'm just like, fuck this guy.
I'd be like, all right, let's talk about this. Send me the receipts and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, I really got to switch up my style when it comes to that. Anybody who don't like Dak, this is your time to shine. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna make it a point. I'm gonna make it a point to respond.
I just
somebody mentioned.
Go ahead.
No, somebody mentioned trading Micah to get a first round pick and getting Caleb Williams. I love the fact that happened on Steele's show. But like this caller has forever become a part of like Cowboys Nation lore. Like it happened on one show, yet everybody knows about it. It's the best thing ever. I love it.
You must be out of your goddamn mind.
If you're thinking about getting rid of Micah Parsons, man, come on, man. You know, the Cowboys have won 12 or more games since Micah Parsons been on this team, by the way.
Yes. Yes.
Anybody want to debate that? You know,
I mean, we can't debate what's facts, but what we can talk about is like, okay, so there's been a lot of questions about Dak, right?
Right.
So if we do go further in the playoffs, if we do have a better season, do we actually think that's going to be because of the offense, or do we think it's going to be something that the defense does? Like think into the future, and who do you think is going to be the saving grace for this team?
I mean, you want to go first, or you want me to take this?
Well, let me ask you this. I'm gonna throw it at you, then, Okoye.
Go ahead.
And the ladies. Where's the weakness at on this defense?
Ain't one.
See where I'm going?
Some people are saying it's at linebacker. There's that argument. Yeah. I personally don't think that, but some people are saying we need to improve the linebacker.
Look at the linebacker room. Overshawn, you got Curse, who's a tweener. Overshawn, who's also a tweener. You got Jabril Cox, who I think has some cerebral issues. I'm not saying he's dumb or anything like that. I'm saying like he just wasn't catching on to certain things. But because of that, you have a guy who we thought was the steal of the draft in that 2021 season. So we thought that was the steal of the draft. So because of the fact that Cox is still here, we went back and got LVE, who I think is a good placeholder, not great but good.
Right.
And then Micah Parsons is still a linebacker. That still a linebacker at times. You know what I'm saying? I like what we saw in Clark. I liked Harper before we put him on the practice last year. So it's like our linebacker room, to me, we got a lot of young guys that like to fly around and hit other than LVE. LVE is a smart guy that knows where to be. The rest of those guys fly around and just hit shit. So to me, that's what you want in a linebacker core. But the reason that people don't have faith in them is because years prior, we weren't protecting those linebackers by keeping bodies off of them. If you keep bodies off of your linebackers and you got guys that can all of them to a man, usually you don't see that. Guys to a man that can go sideline to sideline. You know, you saw guys like Thomas Davis and Kuechly who can do that. But you usually don't have a bunch of linebackers on one team that can guard tight ends, that can run, cover, and fly sideline to sideline and hit shit. We got a bunch of them that can do that to a point where I don't mind if I don't want one of them to go down, but if one were to go down, we can plug and play with as many of them as we have. None of them has solidified themselves, and I think that's what people are worried about. But they will, with the way we play up front. You know, they will.
No doubt. What about you?
What, as far as a weakness? Oh, S-Pain, go.
I mean, you said it. I don't think there is any weakness in our defense. I mean, come on now. It's the best defense in the league. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Weakness where?
Where? What weakness?
Where?
You know?
Where? I'm gonna need
cerebral issues.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to use that.
Cerebral issues.
Cerebral. It's not dumb. He got some cerebral issues.
It's a very nice way to say it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, we got another super chat. I'm guessing this is another one of Laws fans. Drop 20. Smoke 14 ya. Smoke one for you.
Smoke one for you. Appreciate you, my dog. Appreciate you.
Smoke weed every day.
Appreciate you.
I ain't smoked 6 months, but I would if I was.
This is for the Cowboy family, Law Nation, and Aquia. Y'all know how I feel, so we'll be cracking heads real soon.
Oh yeah.
Go. Let's get it, man. Let's get it.
Appreciate the love, man.
Appreciate that. Smoke one for me, man.
Okay, so it sounds like we're all in agreement that there aren't any weaknesses on the defensive side, and if there are, it's the linebacker unit is going to be okay.
Covered by the rest of the defense.
Yeah. To be fair with the linebacker room, last year around this time, Damone Clark was just watching, right? He was just trying to rehab and recover. He wasn't even on nobody's field. Yeah. Real Cox was still in his stinky. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, this linebacker course sneakily, shoot, it might be a strength for us.
Okay, so let's take that question to the offensive side. I feel like there are some questions, mainly because of the pieces that have been moved around or moved away on the offensive side. Yeah. So if you had to point to a weakness, like, would it be the offensive line that we just discussed, or would it be something else? Okoye?
Running back.
I knew you were going to
running back. I love. Don't get me wrong. TP, love him. I want to see what he's going to be able to do coming back. I think we put a lot of pressure on a guy that's he's franchised, so he obviously wants money, but he's franchised, so you're asking him to prove it on a flat tire. And to me, I think that's a lot of pressure. So you're going to have a pressing TP that's coming off an injury late in the season. Deuce Vaughn, I love him to death. He's a gadget guy. He's not a guy that I'm going to say, hey, we're going to give you 10 to 15, 20 carries a game. He's not that guy. Neither is TP, when you're being honest. They're not guys that you say you want to give them the ball 20 times. Not one of them. And then we have a bunch of question marks around them. Davis, Jones. There's another kid too. Who's the other one?
Rico Dowdle.
Rico Dowdle, yeah.
Hunter Luepke,
To me, personally speaking, I know for me to say it, they're gonna call me a fanboy to say it, but I think you go back and you grab Zeke cheap right now and just shore it up. That's just what I feel. It's not because I think Zeke is like going to be the greatest running back since sliced bread. I just think with this room that we already have and the fact that we're going to be running heavy, he doesn't need to be a 20 carry guy. Give him the ball in short yardage situations, like they use him the way they used the bus late in his career. Let him hammer it home at the end of games and let him get to tough yardage and let those other guys just piggyback off of that. So that's what I would do personally. But if there was a weakness, and I wouldn't say a weakness. It's just you don't know. There's no guy that is the guy out of the backfield with an injured Tony Pollard coming into the season.
Well, you already know my answer to that.
Well, what I'm saying is that there are known knowns and that there are known unknowns, but there's also unknown unknowns. Things we don't know that we don't know.
We don't know, man. We just don't know.
Because you don't have
evidence.
that something does exist does not mean that you have evidence that something doesn't exist.
Now, let me ask all three of y'all, man. All three of y'all, you know what I'm saying? Y'all represent the 90s. We had 3 Super Bowls in the 90s, though. But I'm going to ask all three of y'all this right quick. Were the Cowboys top 10 in rushing last year? Okoye, Lethal. Yes, S. Payne. Yeah.
They
And
act like it wasn't, though.
We act like they act like we wasn't.
Yeah.
We had a plan of action.
If Hurts didn't get 760 yards, we would have beat them too.
Right. In rushing. So
as far
what
as
I'm
running
trying
backs
to,
are concerned, we outran the Eagles.
we technically did. So what I'm trying to say here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone that's listening, is that we didn't have a plan of action. We were running out of shotgun. Pass block win rate was at 31st, 32nd, disrespectfully in the National Football League. Now, I truly believe that our pass block win rate will be better, but we will have a plan of action at least against the run or with the run. So Laurie loved to have those athletic guards to get out in traffic. You did a phenomenal, fabulous breakdown on the system of Solari and Schottenheimer, man. Appreciate that, Okoye. So it's going to be a lot of those schemes so that we can see Tony Pollard being utilized to his max capabilities. Because I go back to say this too. Last season, who was our most explosive player on offense?
Tony Pollard.
Tony P.
So
they
didn't use him enough.
They didn't know how to use him, man.
Yeah.
But if you bring back Zeke, what number you gonna give him? 0 or 15? You know, because those two numbers available. You know,
you give me one of those, I take it. I think
they just complemented each other so well. Like it was just so good. They work well, like so well together. Like you use Zeke to bulldoze everything, and then you use TP to score and like get the yards, and it just works so well that we'll see how this season goes.
Holden too, not to cut everybody off, but Holden too just made a good point with Hunter Lukey and also Princeton Fant. Those two guys are runners as well. So I don't think they're going to be guys that you're going to ask to be, consistent, contributors, but they will at least run the ball every once in a while in short yardage as well if we don't go back and get a guy like Zeke. And I like Fant's very physical, and Lukey's just like they're both Swiss Army knife type guys. I don't think both of them make the 53-man roster though, but one of them will, because they're the same type of player. One's just more physical. The other one, I think, is a more electrifying, and Hunter being more electrifying in the air as far as his route running and so on. And I think Fant is just a little small tank.
How many we gonna roll with then? 2, 3?
I don't know, man. I think the running back room though, you're gonna need 4 with the way they are, because they run through you. They'll run you till you got a flat tire. You see how Scolari and Schottenheimer were with Seattle. None of their running backs from that regime, except for Penny, I think, are still in the league because they'll run you till you got a flat tire. You know what I mean?
He on the Eagles now, so
Any other position battle predictions you want to make? Maybe about a receiver.
Battle.
Receiver good, man. I think Jalen Tolbert's going to step up. I'm rooting for him heavy because
what makes you say that?
Yeah, because the option laden system I think was confusing for him, and I think that's what kept him off the field. He was trying to learn when Dak needs to know where you're going to be, and you have to be thinking the same way if you're running option routes. Like I need to know when you're going to end break, when you're going to break your route off, or when you're going to run what route, right? And if you're a young guy trying to learn not only the NFL but learn that level of synchronicity with the quarterback, I think that's a lot to ask anybody to do. So I think that simplified offense this year will be a lot better for guys like him, Fihoko, whoever. You know what I mean? So I don't have a problem, but I think outside of Cooks, Gallup, and Lamb, we already know what they're going to do. I think, especially a healthy Gallup. I think with Jalen Tolbert, he's going to surprise a lot of people because of the work he's been doing. in the Dak yard. You know what I mean?
In the
Well,
dark
well,
side.
Fehoko has also been working in the backyard.
Yeah, I mentioned him. I like Fehoko. I like what he was doing when Cooper Rush came in. I think that first game against Tampa Bay, he was going at Fehoko heavy, and I like his speed. So you could never go wrong with that if you use him correctly. But Fehoko has to show me something in the pads for me to respect him at this point. I didn't see those intangibles in college or in the NFL yet. I saw them in college for Jalen Tolbert. I just haven't seen him do it here yet. So I think he can still. I mean, obviously he's a route runner. He has great hands. He's a playmaker. He just has to transition into the NFL. I haven't seen that for Fehoko yet. So I just want him to do it.
Put your hands
Quick
together
shout
for
out
my
to
guy.
Vach in the chat.
Yeah. Big Vach in the house, man. Appreciate him. He said cooling. Vach. Appreciate him.
But let me ask you this though, because like what you just said begs the question. All right, if you saw all these things from Tolbert in college, then he comes to Dallas, and at the end of the season, he's known more for his mistakes in production.
Right.
Fehoko, on the other hand, before he got injured, looked like his trajectory was more upward, right?
Yeah.
So taking everything that they've done since college, what they've shown to us since they've been here, it looks like Fehoko has better chemistry with the rest of the offense than Tolbert does. So what is it about their trajectory at this point that makes you think? Okay, actually, let me rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
Do we agree on the idea that they're both not going to make the roster? Because honestly, this question is based on that.
No, I don't agree with
So you think we'll have 5 receivers on the roster?
Oh, you said one of them not going to make the roster.
One of them,
right?
I thought you meant like both of them won't make it. I was like,
No. I'm saying, sorry, I worded that really weird. One of them's not going to make the roster, right?
Okay, I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay,
it's crazy.
So what makes you think that's going to be Tolbert?
Well, I think it's going to be Tolbert because everybody got a pet cat, and there's something that Mike McCarthy said when he was talking about the option routes that made me understand that I think he still has a lot of faith in Tolbert, number one. And two, I haven't seen Mike McCarthy one time. I mean, if you could name it, you tell me. I haven't seen him be wrong about a receiver. And when you look at, there's two coaches that don't miss on receivers. They're both named Mike. Tomlin and McCarthy. And both were wide receiver coaches in their career. In their
Greg Jennings, all of those boys.
When Mike McCarthy says that a wide receiver can play, you got James Jones, you got Jennings, you got
Jordy Nelson,
Devontae Adams, Cobb. Who else? You got a bunch of them. He doesn't miss when it comes to wide receiver. He has never missed. Every time he says a receiver is going to be good, they are. And if he tells me that Tolbert is going to be good, he is. Now, I haven't heard that about Fehoko. That doesn't mean he doesn't think it, but I haven't heard it. That's all I'm saying about Fehoko. I don't have nothing against Fehoko.
Well, let me say what Big Mike said about Fehoko. And he said that he sees Fehoko as that H-back. He sees him as a hybrid. And we know for sure that and I'm only bringing this up for context because I know we wanted to move off from Kellen Moore.
Go ahead.
But he said that he didn't like the stop routes, right? He didn't like them at all, or the option routes. And what did Kellen Moore do? Continue to do those option routes. He also said that he would like to see Simi Fehoko in that hybrid role. We didn't see Simi Fehoko at all last season, only for a spoonful of reps, and we got more and more opportunities for elsewhere, right? So when we was out there in the Oxnard last year, the best wide receiver outside of CeeDee Lamb was Simi Fehoko. He was catching everything, the ponytail hanging out of the back of the helmet. He was burning up Trayvon Diggs and everything. I was sitting there like, what's going on? Hey, I got some clips, man. Fehoko had a hell of an offseason. But last year,
I'm about to break him down.
Break him down. Maybe if he cut the ponytail. It's the ponytail.
Make sure I'm right. You know what
I mean, I think you should. Now, granted, there's not a lot to look at, because he got injured so early in the season. But I think it's worth taking a look to see if there's a breakdown in there somewhere. I'd be interested in seeing it, mainly because when people talk about Simi, it's almost like I don't know if they're just like not taking into account the fact that he got injured when he did, and the fact that he had an upward trajectory when he got injured, or if people like somehow don't know this because people keep talking about how long he's been with the team and what his production was, and I'm like, he was hurt for more than half the
It's
season.
because it's sort of like the same way we are with the losses in our history. We always fall in love with one receiver that never does anything. There's always one somewhere. You know, Law can name a bunch of them, but it's always a guy who we call
Kelvin Ogletree, baby. You know,
yeah, they supposed to be the guy, and they never pan out. And it's not just receivers; it's just positions. Period. Like we'll have guys that we be rooting for year after year, and they take too long to blossom. Doesn't mean they're not good though. You know what I mean? Like we had to do a Mike Johnson. He was a safety here one time. We wanted him to catch him. He just never played. And we have guys that we wait for and we'll be rooting for every season because they show so much promise and they just never do it, you know, for whatever reason. So I think he's getting swept into that group. You know, unfortunately, I think that's what's happening to him.
Well, if Noah Brown can get him, if Noah Brown was here for like all of those years, come on, man. but there's a lot of competition in that wide receiver room. There's a lot of guys named Jalen. You know, what was going on in the early 2000s, man? Everybody naming their kids Jalen. You know, we got a Jalen Brown. What are we? Jalen Brooks. Jalen Monroe.
There's Jalen Brown on the Celtics, or at least there was. We don't know if there will be in the future.
It's a lot of Jalen's though. You know,
it's like shrimp gumbo, shrimp
But that Jalen Cropper, he's my dark horse. You know, and my white horse is David Durden. You know what I'm saying? He may be that guy that he give him a chance. Small school guy.
Ain't he huge?
Yeah. Yeah, 4'3" guy. He's like 6'2". So
I thought he was he was taller than that.
He may be. Y'all let me know in the chat.
Yeah, I thought he was taller than that.
We may or may not have to talk about Jalen Brown before we get out of here. But for now, I want to talk about this question that came up in the chat. Well, it's not really a question, it's a comment. But somebody, when we were talking about players kind of getting swept into that category, someone said kind of like Kelvin Joseph is right now. Now, one thing I'll say about Kelvin Joseph is he definitely had the opportunity to prove himself. Like he got that test and he failed. Okay, so I think that's like a big difference. It's not that we haven't seen anything from him. We've seen something from him and it wasn't good. So as kind of like, I don't know, as a trailer prequel to the interview coming up, what are y'all's thoughts on Kelvin Joseph in, you know, his supposed position change this coming season?
Well, I don't think he's based on the way he came back at my man's over here on Twitter. I don't think he's going to change positions, you know, because he really shot back at the idea of being a safety.
Right.
But at the same time, me personally, I like guys who like football, who love football. I don't like to hear guys are rappers. I don't like the off-field stuff, all that. I'm all for giving guys second chances. You know, that is what it is. But I'm personally all for Kelvin Joseph until he showed me something, because, you know, there wouldn't be a Gilly. We wouldn't be excited about Gilmore being here if Kelvin Joseph was doing what we thought he could do here. Gilly wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? Because we already know we had CB2/3 in Bland. We wouldn't have needed Gilly in the offseason if we thought Kelvin was going to be.
Do you think they were misusing him? Do you think they could have played him?
What else do you mean? No, I think you got to line up and do what you ask him to do in his defense. We play a cover one, sometimes zero coverage out there. You got to be able to play on the island. You got to be able to, you know, deal with it, because you're not going to always get help with a single high safety, depending on if a quarterback looks hooker off. He can be, you know, sideline to sideline as he want to be. He's not going to be able to get over the top every time. You know what I mean? So you have to be able to deal in press man, you know, consistently. You're not going to get it every time, but consistently you need to be able to do it, you know, enough for us to trust you out there. And right now, I don't trust Kelvin Joseph. Personally speaking, I don't trust him. I'd rather see somebody else do it. Honestly, Brooks, Miles Brooks, I think his name is.
Miles Brooks, yeah.
I like Miles Brooks right now more than I like Kelvin Joseph.
I do like that tape you broke down on Miles Brooks. I would say this with our DBs. It takes confidence, right? And once the confidence is gone, it's hard to recover from that. And when I look at Kelvin Joseph outside on the island, He gave up 4 touchdowns last season. That's a lot, man, with only the spoonful of reps that he had. And the problem was, me and you, I think you and I was going back and forth, Okoye, on Anthony Brown. And you was right. Anthony was solid when he was playing. He just wasn't.
He was the LG in the cornerback room.
Yeah,
like,
he was solid
enough to be in there.
Right. Right. It was 3rd and Brown. Drop back the quarterback like, oh shit, let me go 3rd and Brown. I'm gonna give me a first down. You know what I'm saying? That all rhymes for your mind. That's just what it is.
We didn't notice how much he was doing though until once Anthony Brown got hurt. We saw how good Anthony Brown was once he got hurt. Because it was easy over there after that. We started to worry about CB2 once he got hurt.
But the only problem I had with all of that, the Cowboys should have ripped the Band-Aid off. You use 2nd round draft pick money for Kelvin Joseph.
Yeah.
Throw him out there in the deep end and say, hey, you read the book on how to swim. Now it's time for you to swim. And he's going to have some warts back to back, but what they did is they threw him out there. Oh man, the kid is drowning, man. Let's just pull him up out of there.
Do you think it's one of those cases that he was like pretty good in college? Like obviously you're gonna make the NFL, and then he got here and he was like, I'm drowning. I'm not in my little island.
No. I think he wasn't tuned in college, and he's not tuned in when he got here either. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think it's
I think he comes off as one of those people who was talented. He was able to his talent was able to get him really far. But then when he entered an arena where everybody is talented, because as much as we like to say certain people in the NFL are quote unquote trash, if you're in the NFL, you're one of the best football players in the world, period. And I think the next steps that he had to take in terms of watching film, in terms of honing his craft, in terms of fine tuning his game to get just enough better to do what he needed to do, he didn't do those things. But on that note, I'm wondering, from y'all, do you think that if he wasn't drafted as high as he was, that the team would be giving him a chance at another position and all this other stuff? Or do you think they would just be like, you know what, we got to move on?
Man, anytime you run a 4.29, people gonna raise eyebrows. And he's a fast dude. 6'1", he got long arms or what have you, and they were able to match that. He only played like 15 games in college, and his claim to fame in college was what he did against Smitty, against Alabama. He shut that brother down. So they were like, okay, old scout said if you've seen it once, you can see it again. So by him coming over to the Cowboys, what happened is the levels of expectations went in. Because we just seen with Trayvon Diggs, a 2nd round draft pick, and they put that on Kelvin Joseph, and not knowing that it takes time for that DB room to really solidify itself. And Trayvon Diggs, he was a guy that could have went in the 1st round. I had him above AJ Terrell, So Diggs' issue was he was just raw, right? Coming from a wide receiver to a DB. Kelvin Joseph, he got all of the talent in the world. And I know people may look at this awkwardly, but he just wasn't lasered in and focused in on his craft. So if we're going to put him to safety, that's less responsibility. You're the last line of defense. Keep everything in front of you. Utilize that speed. Matter of fact, LSU, they went and scouted for safety.
But we got a crazy safety room, Law.
True.
Where he ain't gonna get on the field at corner.
He can play free.
He's not gonna get on the field at corner unless somebody get hurt. He the 4th corner on this team right now. And then we got a lot of competition coming in. Eric Scott and Miles Brooks, one of them are gonna make the team. So that's looking at him and Nashawn are on the hot seat when it comes to that because of those 2 guys. So if you said that, then you got Marquise Bell,
right?
You got Coyle, you got Hooker, you got Curse. Who else in the safety room?
He would have an easier fight in that spot.
Who coming out? He better than Izzy?
Kick Izzy back on the outside, and I promise you, Izzy got stronger, man. Izzy got stronger. That was my only issue with Izzy.
I like Izzy at corner, right?
There you go.
Still, you got Curse, Wilson, and Hooker as our 3 safeties. I'm
talking about free top side.
You gonna play over Hooker?
I'm talking about he gonna play directly behind Hooker. Hooker's in a contract year. We don't know if Hooker gonna be here next year. We don't know if Hooker's gonna leave.
We're talking next year. That's a totally different ball.
Well, you better work, get ready for him.
Joseph will not see the field this season unless somebody gets injured. He's not playing, man. If he makes the team, he's not playing.
Well, they moved up to get Eric Scott Jr. So they got some type of provision to play.
They're not doing that for no reason. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I foresee that Gilly is only here for a short-term stay, a bridge guy, right? So somehow they're gonna slide. Bland probably on the outside in the future.
And Izzy though, but Izzy proved he can play corner.
He wanted.
Those are still your three. If there is no Gilly, if I started the season this year, it would be Izzy, Bland, and Trayvon. So he's still not getting in the game. You know what I'm saying? I don't see him getting in, man. And that's no hate on Kelvin. I think I said it when he got drafted, and I still think it. He's the most talented DB period on the team right now. But because of all the things that have transpired, I don't see him being in favor enough to be in the game and trusted in the game right now. I just don't.
Do you think that he can do better in another team?
Hold on. We got some super chats, and I don't want to not read these. They keep coming in. Yeah. People from Dallas dropped 5 and said the 4-letter networks got toilet seats with that face on it. People really pay money to say this shit. Wow, that's so amazing. The 4-letter networks got toilet seats with Dak face on it with how much they shit on him. Can't wait till Dak exposes these clowns.
Yeah, let's go.
Agreed.
I agree with that one. That's a good one right there, man. You give him a Spartan.
Prepare for glory.
Yes, indeed.
My earbuds are really fuck you
got
today.
a tomahawk and a gallon of water ready. You already know. And a bug out bag. He got a bug out bag too.
All right. Hold on. We got to go.
Had his knife out right by now. Yeah.
People again. No, Ron had negative pictures of Kellen Moore. That's why when Kellen left Noah. Hey, man, I don't know if he said Noah frowned on purpose.
Noah Brown was balling for us in those games when Dak wasn't here, man. Him and Cooper Rush was balling. You know what I'm saying? Y'all gotta stop shitting on Noah Brown. He's a big reason we was 12-5 last year. I gotta give him his credit.
Yeah. You talking about that game that the ball hit him between the 8 and 5 and the Jacksonville Jaguars to the 30, to the 20, to the 10.
How does that outweigh his entire contribution last year, right? But we gave CeeDee Lamb so much patience, and he was fucking up a lot more to me.
CeeDee Lamb wasn't here for 6 years.
Most of those interceptions
6 years
last season that we hate Dak about, that everybody hate him about, where the ball is going to CeeDee Lamb on miscommunications. You know what I'm saying?
I won't say most, but in 2021, CeeDee Lamb did have a higher than we would like drop ball percentage. Hey, leave me alone.
CeeDee Lamb PR, so she like.
He's improved though. He improved. If Kelvin Joseph ball this year, he dropping an album.
Name me one Kelvin Joseph song, man. Somebody in the chat. Oops.
Oh yes, please.
I'm sorry. We're gonna talk to Kelvin. Appreciate him though.
People again, if Dennis Houston work on his route running, he'll be better than Noah Brown because of his hands. That's legit. Dennis Houston is one of those people who kind of disappeared from the conversation. Yeah. And I think it's because he had that chemistry with Cooper Rush, and then when Dak came back, he just kind of faded to black. Wait, no, it was opposite. I don't know who I'm thinking of. Dennis Houston actually really did have good chemistry with Dak. I don't know what happened to him.
Cooper Rush, he didn't have the chemistry with.
Yeah.
Is that when he disappeared? I felt like he was still around when Dak came back.
No, I think they got rid of him right after Dak got injured. That first game.
It must have been right after.
He didn't read the right option route.
Yeah.
The first series, and that was the end of him.
Hey, after when Dak broke his thumb, this was Dennis Houston.
Damn.
He had nothing. He had nobody to fight for him, man.
Can we get a keyword like that? I'm gonna need one for us.
We need to get one for that. It's over for you. We talk about all the time. We need to get one just for that.
I need
Trey
that.
gonna get little bro his little bro what?
Trey going.
Somebody explain that.
Bro versus
Oh,
Oh,
Jinx
yeah.
versus Jinx.
Oh,
I don't think you want. I don't want him on.
No, I mean me neither.
Yeah, I like little shifty guys on little shifty guys. I think Trayvon good with big receivers. You know what I'm saying? Those in and out guys that can run routes like crazy. They give him fits not because he can't cover them, but he wants to look in the backfield eventually, and you want him looking in the backfield. When he can't look at the quarterback or play in phase, so to speak, you know, to me, it's like his superpowers are not there. Like he needs to be able to trust his speed and play off.
So you gonna put him on Gabe Davis?
Huh?
You gonna put him on Gabe Davis?
Yep.
Law doesn't
You said that.
I'm
You
sure
sure?
about it.
All right, it's gonna be a double move straight.
It's however you want to slice. Like, do you want to?
Who's that other wide receiver, man? Who that third wide receiver over there?
I don't even know who they third.
I just know Dave is a boy. I'm not
runner. He a deep guy. Like,
yeah.
Trayvon cool with that. I don't got a problem with Trayvon with that. I'm
gonna go back. Give me a game that I can go back and watch him on a deep threat guy.
Last year you only got the Rams game. He got beat deep one time, I think. Last year.
But Cup ain't Cup don't have that type of speed that Davis got though. But Cup is
it wasn't Cup though. It was a little guy that he threw it to, like a 50-yard bomb, and he was diving.
Y'all help me out, man. Y'all help me out in the chat.
He said all he do is run deep. Exactly. I don't think that's a problem for Trey.
Well, roll coverage, man. Get Malik Hooker or Kelvin Joseph over the top. You know,
you don't need no help with that guy. I think Trayvon last year shut down a lot of the doubt that they had against him when it came to him getting beat. He didn't get whooped last year.
They said Terry McLaurin. So is Terry McLaurin fast like that? I don't think he is.
He fast.
I'm gonna look at some stuff, man. But that Miami game, we're gonna have the Florida relays on us on that game.
Yeah, that's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because his brother, like, he's more familiar with his game, like he's been guarding him forever? So do you think he'd be more comfortable on that side?
I mean, he's going to guard him anyway because he wants to. He's going to want to guard his brother. It's going to happen. I just said I don't want it to happen. Yeah. But it's going to happen.
I mean, it's gonna be fun. I'm ready to watch it. I think it's going to be a really fun game.
Yeah, it's going to be a real good one. Cowboys going to win by 2 tubs, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Bills last year.
Allen throw 3 interceptions. They're going to act like it didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Right.
Like
it didn't happen.
Oh, Lord, man, he's a homer for real. 2 tubs against the Bills. The Bills lost to the Minnesota Vikings. We blew them out 40.
Bills don't have a running game.
Right. True.
There it is.
You got Josh Allen, man. You're not
gonna beat us once. You got to be a balanced team, I think, to destroy us. Unless we turn in the ball over, you're not gonna beat us with just a potent pass offense because we're pass rushers. You got to be able to run the ball, keep us honest. That's just my opinion. Now, maybe that's Josh Allen, but I would love to see Josh Allen running, 10, 15 times that game so we can take a crack at him. With Sam Williams out there able to, hit him freely. I would like that.
I think somebody put a song out there, Prepare for the Worst is a Kelvin Joseph song.
Yeah, I think that's like an actual song. Were you asking for actual songs or were you asking for like parody and satire?
That's an actual song.
I'm going to listen to it before I jump live, but I'm going to prepare for the worst. I'm going to listen to the song.
So you're going to prepare for the worst listening to his music?
What'd you say?
You gotta be prepared for everything.
Man. You gotta be prepared for it, man. You gotta be hungry. Come on, Kelvin Joseph.
I've never heard a Kelvin Joseph track ever. Is he actually good?
Spare yourself.
prepare for the worst before you go put on his music.
Yeah, definitely do that.
There we go.
BR.
All right. People from Dallas is just like throwing money on the stage. I love it. Do you think Hurts gonna duck that Dak fade again like last year with that shoulder?
Yo.
I hope not.
Shoulder, man. You know,
it's like building some narrative where they didn't get to play in the regular season. I think that's the narrative that was supposed to go down, in my opinion. They didn't get to play in the regular season. They were supposed to meet in the playoffs and decide once and for all like who was going to go to the bowl. But I think this year, I think we're gonna see him this year. I want to see what Hurts is able to do this year as well. Like I just want to see it. Like we got a year of film of him and AJ. We got to see what they're doing together. I want to see them do it again. Not go to the Super Bowl, obviously. But
I mean, fact of the matter is,
second crack at those guys.
Yeah, I mean, fact of the matter is, like, we'll never see Hurts and Dak on the field at the same time. So it's not really them versus them. But I do want to see, okay, like Hurts, what can you actually do against this defense? I want to see it. Since everybody's saying he's the best quarterback in the NFC, I want to see what he can do against his defense. I'm just curious. And I say this, if anybody who actually watches our show, I actually do like Jalen Hurts. I have nothing against him. I followed him in college. I like Jalen Hurts. But I also have to acknowledge the reality of his career, which is that this past season was his first really good season. And I think had he had another season like what we saw his second year, this wouldn't even be a conversation.
We wouldn't be talking about it, right?
Right. So I want to see what he can do against an elite defense. If he's an elite quarterback, he should be able to handle an elite defense, and we'll see. People from Dallas again. You must be so much fun at strip clubs. Oh my God.
Where them dollars at?
Dak didn't duck once with the same injury. Facts.
He showed it in 2019. They still held us against that though. In 2019, we lost to the Eagles.
Yeah.
But it was a bittersweet loss though. We wouldn't have drafted CD Lamb.
True.
We would have won that game. We probably would have kept Jason Garrett because we would have went to the playoff,
Yeah, everything happens for a reason, right?
We needed that.
I prefer this version of reality over what you just described.
Right.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing. Y'all probably wouldn't even see me on this show, man. I'll be like painting houses or something. I don't know. I'll find something.
I mean, same. Like I became a Cowboys fan because I remembered CD from college a little bit, but I kind of fell off from following him. But when I saw him again on Hard Knocks, I was like, oh yeah, it's time for me to follow the Cowboys again.
It's time.
Before we get out of here, because we've been going for a while, Law, since you seem to be pretty tuned in, locked in, what do you think we can expect to see from this Kelvin Joseph interview that's coming up? Like, what should people look forward to hearing? Because we haven't seen a lot from KJ on the field, right? And so I think when we interview other players, there's an opportunity to talk about their game, their thoughts on some of the things that we might not be privy to. Do you think we'll hear some of that from KJ? Do you think it's going to be more addressing the Twitter controversy that happened this past week? Like, what can people expect? What should they tune in for?
They should, because West Coast, man, shout out to him and HTM and my guy Landlord. They're gonna squeeze out the good information. They're gonna allow him to speak his mind. Now he don't talk a lot though, so they're gonna have to pull at him to get that information out of him. And this will be new to the Cowboys nation too, because Kelvin Joseph, if you guys
never done no real interviews,
he really don't do interviews. Right. So I want them to get into the mind. West Coast, HTM, and Landlord. So it's going to be a good, and then they're going to open up the phone lines for all of us to jump in and send out a link that way. So I encourage you guys to listen, because I see a lot of times DBs maybe he changed his mind, because there's nothing wrong with switching over to play safety. Charles Woodson, Rod Woodson, right? We can go on and on. The Honey Badger, he played inside the slot in safety play. So there's nothing wrong with playing in the middle of the field and having everything in front of you, and just keep everything in front of you, and you utilizing that 4.3 speed. So it's about getting out there on the field. But I know if you have that alpha mindset and that dog mentality, you saying that, hey, I'm the best DB out here. If he got that mindset as a DB, that's a plus for us, right? Yeah. But for right now, shoot, he's special team guy, right? Special team hero. And instead of KJ, it's CJ that they even paid some money for. So He gonna have to earn every ground of blade of grass that he's out there on, and we rooting for him to be successful. But every time we see Kelvin Joseph, we're thinking of the other kid, Asante Samuel Jr. Because we drafted him, we drafted Kelvin Joseph over him. So we'll find out. So hopefully we get some good insight from Kelvin Joseph tonight.
So we're expecting some good insight, even though he doesn't talk a lot.
You're gonna have to squeeze him, man. You got to squeeze it out of him.
Okay, well, we'll see.
We have this expression in Spain. We have this expression in Spain when people don't really talk like that. You have to take it out with like a wine opener. You have to like work your way out.
Yeah, work it.
Out.
Yeah.
I guess we'll get to see Landlord's interview skills on display. If he doesn't talk a lot, if y'all put on a beat, will he freestyle? Will he let his feelings out that way?
I wouldn't do him like that. You know what I'm saying?
Going viral real quick.
And there's no shade.
There's got to be some way.
There's really, I'm gonna be real now. There's no shade, but he's a mumble rapper with auto tune. So I don't think that he's gonna, drop any bars, man. You know what I'm saying? He ain't gonna do one fish, two fish, blue fish. He ain't gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? He ain't finna do the Dr. Seuss thing. If he do that, then we would say, all right. Huh?
If he rap, I'm done with him. Like, focus on football, man.
Yeah.
All right, we got one more super chat. Peebo again, of course. I'm waiting for Dak to smack. I can't even say this with a straight face. I'm waiting for Dak to smack the shit out of somebody, like in the Tampa playoff game last year. No, somebody was saying they feel like Dak is like showing a little bit more of his edge, and I mean, honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing that myself. I don't know about smacking the shit out of somebody. That would be interesting.
Yeah, but
the last quarterback we had that spoke with authority, he wore 8 on his chest. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He would go in there and I'm like, dog, Troy, you gonna talk about the O-line like that? Troy was the last one. I think Tony, he only went at Dez one time, huh, Koye?
Yeah.
Yeah. I ain't seen Tony. Even Tony didn't do it.
In that Detroit game you talking about, when he told him, he said, I'll tell you when to go.
Yeah. I'll tell you. Boy, you got a good recall. Yeah.
Man, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I'll put it this way. I think in order for Dak to actually speak with that level of authority, like what you're talking about, his game would have to be above reproach. Yeah. So I would love to see him play on that level to where he can show up and talk like that and not get, a lot of criticism for it.
I disagree.
So if that happens, I'm here for it.
You just gotta talk your shit, and that's your game will catch up when you start talking. You say what he said, and I'm gonna respect it as long as it's the right thing.
Your chest.
I left out one guy that did it. Y'all remember it was the Washington team, wow. Andy Dalton. And then the next play, you remember Andy Dalton when he did that? He was like, yeah, and they were like, oh, okay.
Nobody blocked for it. Nobody after that.
People said Dak is a nice guy. When nice guys snap, ... I don't know if he's actually a nice guy. Like something about the way that he does talk and something about the way he does carry himself makes me think like we don't get to see that side of Dak, but I don't think that he's just like a nice guy. And I can't really describe it, but it's just something about
the vibe,
the way he talks, the way he stands. Like, it's like. And I'm not saying this as someone who's ever even been in his presence personally, but just from what we do hear about him from other players and from what he does say and what he does do, I feel like there's a side of him that is kept hidden and out of sight for a reason. Yeah. I feel like if we were to see it, we would all be very shocked and surprised. I personally would like to see it, but and then somebody, Nick in the chat said Dak ain't nice. I don't know how Nick knows this.
He talking about that docu because he was cussing.
But I believe you.
He taking me out the game. You remember that in 2021?
I do remember that.
He cussed a little bit. It was like, he know how to put the words together really good. So No,
that was hilarious in Hard Knocks and also in the Sounds from the Sideline when people were like, "Oh my God, Dak is swearing," and I'm just like, "You really think a professional athlete like in his position doesn't cuss sometimes?" Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's not nice, man.
Anyway, this has been a great conversation. I definitely want to give everybody a chance to take a breather and transition before their next engagement. Thank you guys so much for showing up, and for honestly for giving us the opportunity to talk with y'all, introducing us to new audiences. This is awesome. I've had such a good time, just being part of Cowboys Nation, getting to know the other content creators, getting to work with you guys. Y'all are the best.
Likewise, man. I enjoy it every time.
Man,
Hey,
people,
yo, Popo, y'all
you got that Jerry Jones money, man.
We're ending the show, people. Stop. But this last one, Dak won Man of the Year. The Eagles fans booed him, even though we were eliminated and now the Super Bowl. Fuck the Eagles. I won't say fuck the Eagles, but definitely fuck them for that. That was fucked up. How you boo somebody who's who's working for suicide awareness. That was fucked up.
That was fucked up. That was.
Yeah.
But on that note, everybody tune into the Kelvin Joseph interview. If you don't know how to find it, check out any of us on Twitter. We've all been retweeting it and talking about it. I'm gonna tune in after I have a little snack.
Rock all day. I didn't even know it was that. It's 15 minutes.
It's in the
it's in 15 minutes.
Minutes.
You're doing great.
Yep.
You're pushing this.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Yeah. Y'all be sure to follow them. Follow y'all, man.
And you'll be fine, man.
Yes, indeed. Bitches love sports. Y'all is a remarkable podcast. Y'all be sure to follow them. Find them on Twitter. Are y'all on Facebook?
And Instagram.
Well, we are on Facebook, but our Facebook page is shadow banned. So our Facebook page is shadow banned. Our Instagram page is kind of shadow banned. It's a little easier to find. Twitter is the only thing that has us active. So.
What are y'all doing on Facebook? And I mean,
nothing. It's literally the word bitch. It's like we set up our page and then we started sharing posts and then we got this notification. It was like, you had violated community guidelines. Wow. And then even after we changed the name, we changed it to BLS Podcast. But it's still
they decipher it,
Yeah.
So we are live on Facebook right now. So shout out to the people on Facebook. Just say BLS, right?
BLS.
Yeah. But as Payne, you already know what I said. You gotta say it in a different way. If you're gonna say bitches love sports, you gotta say biatch. You know what I'm saying? They won't get them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
The club is closing and people are still throwing money on the stage.
The light cutting on, man.
All right.
Girl,
good night, y'all. Check out the interview. Follow us. We'll see y'all on Monday, hopefully.
Good night. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Talk to y'all soon.